Welcome to those of you who are joining us. I'm Lyn Christian from SoulSalt, and it's good to see some familiar faces. We do this monthly call because we have a huge clientele that comes to us because they are trying to reinvent their working identity. And so if you are here, please know that we are here to support you. Today, we're going to turn most of the time over to our two coaches, Hillari and Shannon Judge, who also do the reinvention coaching. You'll get to know them better in just a moment. Before we do that, as we get a warm up and we're waiting for people to come on, because we have a lot of people who sign up for this free webinar. A couple of things for housekeeping. If you can stay on mute, please do that like you are. If you can be on the camera, please do that like most of you are. It's really, really helpful for us. We understand not everyone can. We're recording this because this goes out to between 300 and 350 people each month sign up for this video program. So it's a huge need, and it's one that we have expertise in. So I'm going to give you just a quick little free tidbit today. One of the things that happens when we reinvent, we start to talk about it and we tell other people that that's what we're doing. And the other people around us, used to us doing what we usually do, living life the way we've lived it, they get kind of uncomfortable with that. And so they may question us, they may add some self-doubt to an already kind of doubt-ridden process. They also don't understand, and it makes them uncomfortable. And sometimes they send that discomfort to us. There are some cases, they're few and far between, thank goodness, where a person is close to a spouse, a partner, a friend, and that other person doesn't want them to reinvent because they don't want them to get better or change or do something different. And so it is really important when you're reinventing to have a community where you can talk openly about these things and not scare the people in your network and not be scared back when you see their faces when you say, I want to change my job. So that's just a little free tidbit today to talk about one of the common themes that happens when we do reinvent. The people around us have to adjust how they see us. They have to adjust how they think about us, while we're doing that for ourselves. And sometimes those two vantage points can become confusing. If that happens, that's normal. Just know you can always lean into the SoulSalt community because we're here. We get it. We've done it. We'll probably do it again, AKA Reinvention. And we're here to support you and help you normalize that. So with that, let me introduce Hillari Brandise and Shannon Judge. Very trusted coaches here at SoulSalt. They've been through the SoulSalt certification process. They know how to coach, and specifically, they've been through the reinvention process themselves and through reinvention coaching. So they're going to lead today through a simulation and an exercise with you that I hope helps you in your path to career reinvention. So Hillari and Shannon, come off mute and take us away.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for being here. And thank you, Lyn, for the great tip. We were just talking about that yesterday, how common that phenomenon is and how nice it is to have a community of people going through a similar process who understand. So yes, Hillari and I will lead you through a little coaching demo today. And it's a real life demo. It's stuff that is going on in Hillari's life. And I might, Hillari, ask you a couple of questions for background purposes for our viewers here today and who are watching the call later. And then we do have some questions at the end that we've gotten through email. And if you have other questions, please place them in the chat. We'd love to answer them after our demo. And yeah, let's get started. Okay. Would you like to add anything, Hillari?
No, thank you. I'm ready for the questions.
Okay, perfect. So Hillari, how are you today? And what would you like to work on?
I'm doing well. I want to work on the part in the reinvention process where maybe you want to stop something you're doing in your reinvention process, or you have another experiment to try. I'm at a juncture.
Okay.
So I'd like to get some help with that.
Excellent. Can you describe the juncture that you're at?
I can. I wanted to describe a little bit about my own reinvention so people have a little background here.
Excellent.
So many years ago when I was working with Lyn, she was coaching me. She had approached me about becoming a coach. And so I knew that was going to be a big change in my life. And I thought, how do I do that? It was kind of scary. It took me a while, right, Lynn? But then when a couple of years ago, when I said to her, I'm ready, and she said, how long do you think it's going to take you? And I said, 5 years to finish this up. So I'm halfway through that. I'm still in the reinvention process. I've done the course, I've done the work, but I'm still experimenting. And so I had something come up this week that I need some help with.
Excellent.
So I'm a certified SoulSalt coach, but I'm also seeking my professional credential with the International Coaching Federation. The price tag on that is pretty hefty, in addition to the time commitment. There's something that's always bothered me in my own life, and that is I didn't finish my bachelor's. I have an associate degree. And so I started exploring. Well, I know some universities provide coaching credentials. Maybe I go that route. I looked at my alma mater, and sure enough, they've got an adult education program for me to finish my degree, and it would provide also a credential. I mean, I feel like I hit the jackpot, but now I'm like, okay, but here's where I am on my path in career reinvention, and where does this fit in? And how do I know if it's the right thing to do? So I hope that wasn't too much, but that's what I needed for today, Shannon.
That was perfect. Thank you. And I know that I want to point out to the audience as well that I know that you are using one of the fundamental reinvention tools, Earning While You're Learning. So you do work as a coach, and you also have another job that helps you move through the transition as you coach more and more. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bridge
Okay.
job too. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So what is it? You said that this discovery of this possibility of getting your bachelor's and on the way to your ICF credential through this, it feels like a jackpot that you hit. Can you describe the excitement and what and how you came to this?
I mean,
Was
I
it
can't even begin to tell the excitement because one, it just seemed to come to me organically, where I just thought I'd explore. University of Utah has a coaching certificate that is ICF credential. Looked at that. And then I thought, well, why don't I see what's going on at Boise State, where where my heart is? And sure enough, 2 years ago when I explored this wasn't a thing. It's new. It's an adult education program. So I set up the appointment with the advisor. We connected beautifully. It just felt like it was all coming together. Well, there's that excitement in a prospect that here's where I'm nervous about this exploring process in career reinvention.
Definitely.
Because every choice that we make with a full plate, something has to come off of that plate. So how do I make this work? Does it fit in with my core values? Is it in alignment with my vision? All of these things are going through my mind, and that's what I don't want it to be just the end game. I want it to be part of the process. Is this what I should be doing?
Okay. So at the moment, does it feel like an experiment in the reinvention process?
It is, because I did my application yesterday. You had to write a statement, so to speak, like your vision statement for, what earning this is going to do for you in your professional life. So that was the easy part.
Okay.
So it got me to put my toe in the water and really look at what it would be for me. So I loved that process, and that's where I'm at.
And then, excellent. And when you kind of look at the broad view of fitting it in amongst all the other things that you're doing, what is that perspective like? What do you notice?
Well, I noticed that, so what was the beautiful part for me is that this degree program, it is an applied science degree.
Okay.
It's got a lot of, what we call those domains within that degree. But there's a leadership domain. There is a coaching. It's not called coaching, but it is a kind of coaching domain where you're helping or you're coaching people through a creative process. It was just that there were things that fit right in with what I'm doing coaching wise. That's why it felt so good.
That's
so
incredible.
That's why I want to explore it more.
Okay, it sounds right up your alley.
Just like it.
Yeah, definitely. So envisioning going down this path, what do you see? I wonder if you can relate it to instances in the past when you've found something along your career path while you've been in reinvention that seems like the ticket, that seems like, let's go for this. I know you've been in the salon industry in the past.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
been in a lot of different industries as a
Oh,
business owner.
and that's true. And Shannon, I'm glad you bring that up because I felt like there was one thing. So recently I completed a certification in positive psychology. It took
Mhm.
me a year to do that. It was a 5-segment course, which really taught me a lot about grit. And it
Uh-huh.
taught me where in my life, even though I had jumped around and tried new things and life was exciting and always fun and always challenging,
Mhm.
the missing component in my life I felt was the grit. And that's what concerns me the most about this. You know, I'm halfway through. I feel my goal with career reinvention is I want to stay on track.
Mhm.
I will, I am determined to live grit for this, to just to pursue this passion and reach these. They're not really goals, it's more of a vision that I have, which was something that we explored a few Q&As ago, where I
Mhm.
actually professed to a group of people, which I've never done before, what my dream was. So
Mhm.
I want to stay there.
Certainly. So this piece of the puzzle, which may be something to go all in and pursue, may be something that you decide to wait on or against. You're kind of in that decision-making process, but we know that it's lighting you up at the moment, that it seems
Mm-hmm,
right.
mm-hmm.
How do you balance that between experimenting with this and kind of saying no to all the rest and going right down this rabbit hole?
You know,
What are the pluses and minuses there?
something I learned from Lyn a few years ago was doing a cost benefit analysis.
Okay. Can you
Because I
describe that?
really want to weigh these things out, just not pros and cons, but really, what is going to be the ROI on this?
Mm-hmm.
Because even though this is more expensive than the credential,
Mm-hmm.
is what's the return on it going to be?
Okay. And what
And I really am looking at that. And also, another benefit that I have with my bridge job, they do
Mhm.
tuition reimbursement. So
Wow.
why wouldn't I take advantage of that? You know,
Okay.
I mean, this is where I'm at right now is just looking at both things because and also with what I thought about was with the degree finishing, then I can apply for my credential in a different manner. There's
Okay.
more than one way to get that coaching credential, and this would still allow me to apply for that. So
Okay.
I'm there's a lot of moving parts right now, and I'm really trying to be strategic because that's one of my, strengths in my disc profile.
Definitely. So it sounds like you have all the moving parts going. It sounds like this is a brand new moving part to add to the mix, which is already quite full. And it sounds like you've already determined that it is in alignment with all of your core values, that it's in alignment with your goals and your vision, and that it's something you want to take this, you are taking the steps and you're moving forward. And I guess my next question is, can you relate a situation in the past? Because today is all about how do we keep in the experimentation mode and not just dive down what seems like, quote unquote, the answer to all of
Mm-hmm.
our
Mm-hmm.
reinvention dreams. And we'll talk about the dangers of those after. So can you think of a time along your reinvention path, which I know has been going on for some years, on and off, where you have had an opportunity that seemed like the golden ticket and you've dived in and kind of realized, maybe I need to rethink this?
I'm going to be honest. I don't think I have. I think that
Okay.
every lily pad that I jumped on in the experimenting process had something to take away.
Uh-huh. And you
What
didn't
I
get
know,
too deep into it.
yeah, what I do
Okay.
know is that I haven't traveled much in that experimenting process until now again. I've
Okay.
taken on different things, but it didn't feel like an experiment. It felt like a building on this, what I was already doing. Like
Mhm.
recently, I signed up to be a chair on a local chapter of that ICF board.
Okay.
So those things are, kind of already fit into place. They're not experimenting. This one is out there. And so, no, I found though that what I felt when this came about, which was just last week, so it was really great that we were doing this today because I really needed your coaching, I'll tell you that, was that I found myself going, I know how to do this. This is part of the experimenting process. I got this. This is that tool that ended up in my belt in that course, and I get to pull it out again.
Excellent. So talk to me about how you're going to stay in this experimental place moving forward and continue down this path that feels really in alignment with what your vision and your goals are.
I'm going to stay in touch with this advisor who's wonderful and text me that he was excited. He saw my application yesterday. I'm going to keep this support system that I have in place.
Okay.
And, bounce things off people that I want to hear their response. It's not feedback to me, it's your response to what I'm thinking. Because for goodness sakes, right, I'm 60 years old and I'm going back to college, right? So,
I love it. Yeah. It really ties into, Lyn often talks about, the most productive stage in life is, what is it, Lyn, 60 to 70? Incredible.
Yeah, I think I'm living proof. So
you are. It's exciting. So looking at the big picture, you go down this path, you pursue your degree and this certification for coaching. Where does that land you? When you think about your whole vision as a coach and what you're working towards in this 5-year transition that you spoke with Lyn about, where does that land you when you're finished with the certification? What do you gain?
Well, as a coach, getting to that place where, people come to coaching because they want to move the needle. They want to get to that spot. They want to discover maybe even what that spot is. If I have walked the walk, if I've been in that arena, I'm just going to be a better coach. And that's what I'm after.
That's exciting. So what are your next steps?
My next steps, just doing a little more layout on the cost-benefit analysis.
Okay.
And then following up, just choosing a start date, because it can be even a year away.
Okay.
And which is manageable. And then I can decide what schedule, how many courses I can take on at a time.
Okay.
Doing my financial aid app, I'm doing everything to just, so this just goes well. That's what I'm doing, putting the ducks in a row.
Do you need any accountability? Do you need me to check in with you and on next steps and see where you're at?
Well, that's always wonderful. Yes. If you're offering, I'm taking.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe next week, a week from now?
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course. Absolutely. What else comes up for you? Anything?
No, I loved that I just had the opportunity to walk and talk through this, because when you have something going through your mind like this and you're essentially on a merry-go-round, you let me step off for a minute and still enjoy the ride, but have a different perspective, I think.
Definitely. And it sounds like you're in a really powerful position of looking, you've been in Reinvention for a while, so you have the advantage of looking back, seeing your experience and your history, taking that approach of experimentation and harnessing it as a tool that you and I have talked about, and Lyn as well, that you can really, as Reinvention students, we can use that tool throughout life and lean into it in times of transition, not, above and beyond career transitions, which is amazing. And that's exactly what you're doing right now. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Thanks.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and I'll just pause here. Well done, Shannon and Hillari, for giving a demo, not only on what coaching looks like here at SoulSalt, but also what it might look like when someone's decided that they're reinventing and they kind of know where they're going. And this is kind of more of an advanced step for you, Hillari, but you got to see that live. So what else do you guys, what else do you have prepared for us, Shannon and Hillari?
Well, we've got some questions that we'd love to run through. And I'd also love to, I think it might be a nice opportunity to talk about that transition model. And Hillari's in a nice position where she's not going down sometimes we see with Reinvention clients where it's so calming, or what's the word? It's like, it's kind of, we grasp, I think, as humans to wanting to settle on the answer. So the transition model, Lyn, as you have described, it's like if we go down these rabbit holes, we don't experiment and we say, oh my gosh, this is completely it. I'm sold. I'm going to be a real estate agent. I'm going to be, whatever this is. If it's not, if we go down that path and 6 months, a year go by and we realize, gosh, this is not it does throw us back into the transition model. And the transition model is necessary, but it's not the most amazing place to be, right? Like it's tough to get thrown back into that mix. So I don't know if it's worth a little discussion about that, or I think it goes hand in hand with our questions. And the first question is, how do I know when to run with an experiment?
Okay.
Because they can look like these bright, shiny objects. Is golden opportunities we can fall into chasing. And one of the big things that we've all noticed, and I think a lot of clients notice, is it's important to keep that question mark in play. Like, is this the thing? Let's go down the path. Is it meeting my core values? Am I making a living? Is it in alignment with who I am?
Yeah. So what you're saying is the question is, how do I know if this is going to be an experiment I'm going to latch onto?
Yeah.
And Hillari, how did you know? Let's have you answer this, because it seems like so many pieces of you lined up when you found this learning track. How did you know?
The ease of the conversation with the advisor, that he was speaking my language. That's what it was, and exploring things, and then that's what it was. I felt it head, heart, and gut. It was just the conversation just flowed. It wasn't contrived. That's how I felt I was onto something real.
Excellent.
How would you answer that, Shannon? How would you answer it?
I agree. When things flow like that, it's great information. When we aren't in a state of anxiety, when we feel calm and like the pieces are coming together, when we do that assessment, like Hillari, you just talked about in our session, where we say, does this align with my top 3 core values? Is this in alignment with my end goal? Because we know that those are the things that really bring satisfaction and joy in life, is when we are in work that feeds and nourishes us. So I'd say that, doing that analysis is a huge, huge piece of it. And still retaining that question mark when we're in the reinvention process, because even when we find the thing, it continues to grow and evolve.
Yeah. So a lot of cues here: the ease, almost a sense of coming home, the rightness of it. Hillari, when you were talking, the head, heart, and gut. Shannon's going to put my TEDx talk where I talk about the head, heart, and gut knowledge, because we have functional brains in our heart and guts that speak to the prefrontal cortex. And then Shannon, what you just said, I'll add one. There is something that happened today when I was working with an executive on their life leadership map. And we were doing her possibility practice, which is something that is part of my future book. So those of you who are on here, if you want to be part of the watch list, make sure we get your emails so you can be on the watch list for when the book comes out. Watching her, she lit up when she discovered that she may want to work for, and it's a huge employer, it's something that's well known, I can't say right now, but here in the United States, she decided that that was a possibility, and everything lit up. And as she could see herself, and go back and look at the recording of our discussion, she could see that that was a yes. So anytime you've made a good decision, anyone on this call, and it was a yes, and you felt it, use that in your reinvention process.
I love that.
Shannon, you have another question?
I do. We talked a little bit about the difference between a goal and a vision. Hillary, do you want to touch on what that is, a goal and a vision, the distinction?
Because I've been kicking it around like crazy, I think so. It's been anyway. So then last night I was reading an email, and it was a quote from Dr. Phil that said the difference is the timeline. So the goals are what get you to the vision, is what I came up with in myself, because those are the things you achieve along the way. The vision will always be there, and it may change throughout your life, because as you reach a goal, that may change the landscape of the vision. So that's what for myself, is the long term and short term of those two things. The vision is always something that's there. The goals are the things that get you towards that vision and through that vision.
Well said.
How would
Excellent.
how would you answer that one, Shannon?
I agree. I think the goals are the steps along the way that lead to this vision that isn't, it isn't static. It's not set in stone. It definitely evolves and shifts as we grow.
And it does as we grow. If anybody is having pushback when you hear us using the word goal, change it. I know Shannon D is, because she doesn't like that word. It's a 4-letter word to her. And so, literally. And so you can use milestones, you can use projects, you can use a benchmark. There are lots of different ways, but you heard Hillari, while she was being coached by Shannon Judge, say it's been a vision. So if you have this dream, this heart dream, this aspiration, this possibility, this vision of what could be, that is probably the strategic part, and the goals, the benchmarks are the steps to get to it. So that's a good distinction to bring up, and I'm glad somebody asked that. Do you have another one, Shannon?
I do. What does reflection do for me, and how can I use it as a tool? We were thinking of answering this in terms of journaling and engaging your process, Lyn, of what went well, what didn't go well, what will I do differently next time? I don't know if you want to speak to that a bit, because you're an expert.
I will, and I think we'll give ourselves a preview, because I think next time we do this, Hillari, you're going to get into the reflection even more, aren't you?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So this is my reflective book. It's kind of a guidebook. It's what I reflect. So if I'm trying to improve anywhere, this is my fencing book. I will take notes after a practice session, after a lesson, after open practice, after a tournament, and I'll ask myself, what did I learn? What was my insight? That's the first question. I'm borrowing these from Lanny Basham, who studied the best athletes. I don't know if you know this, but 10% of the athletes in the world of Olympics and elite athletics, 10% of them get 90% of the medals. So he studied these people who are getting on the podiums, and the first thing they do is they ask, what did I learn? What were my insights? Then the next thing you ask is what went well, because that's what you want to duplicate. He wasn't interested in what didn't work, because you don't want to duplicate that, and you don't want to wire that into the neurons. And then the final one was, what am I going to try next time? And so if you're reflecting about how an experiment went, or how your reinvention process is going, and you're doing it 2, 3, 4 times a week, you will find that you embody the change faster. Reflective journaling, if you like to call the word, there's also a hot button there with the word journaling, or your day book, or whatever you take your notes in, your field guide, whatever you want to call it something that works for you. If you are reflecting on it, there are things that will pop up. Now, you don't even have to be journaling. How many of you, just think about this, how many of you get your answers in the morning as you're first waking up? Or in the shower? Or when you're driving, right? So whenever you are able, yes, to set aside your regular thinking, that's when you want to have a note-taking tool or a recording tool, because you'll get insights. Something will fly in one ear, drop off that bit of gold, fly out the other. And if you don't write it down or record it somehow, you lose it. So the reflection can show you things, and you have a system already. A lot of you will be surprised that now we've talked about it, you'll notice, oh yeah, it's when I'm doing the dishes, or yeah, it's just before I fall asleep. You have moments when your quieted mind gives you more information, and without that, you could lose cues about your reinvention process. Hillari and Shannon, what do you guys want to say on the topic?
I think you covered it. That was fabulous.
Yeah, definitely.
It's and I've noticed in myself, and also clients repeatedly say that they notice the process of journaling or just keeping a notebook and writing down and going back and asking these questions is so powerful, especially to look back immediately, but also look back 6 months prior, 8 months prior. We often don't remember those in the forefront of our minds, but they're cumulative along the way.
They are. Yeah. And Hillari, we don't want to give away too much, but those who are going to come in next month, should they be journaling now? What?
Oh, I would love Jess to bring your pencil and paper because we're going to do exercises, okay? But the thing that I think is important about the journaling is the positive aspects, just like you referred to as those the percentage of those successful athletes being on the podium. They focused on what they did well. And that's when we're talking about reflection, you may want to put what would I do different next time, but remember it's what you did well that you want to build on. That's why we're reflecting on that.
Absolutely.
That is why we're reflecting on it. And you can always replace the thing that you didn't do so well with something you can do better. And so if you focus on what you're doing well and you're painfully aware of where you missed, you think about what will I try next time that slips that in there, and you don't frame it, like you said, Hillari, in the negative place.
Yeah.
Because then he said, he would spend an evening shooting for 3 hours, and he said, I don't want to know about the 5 shots I missed. I want to know about the 370 that I hit. What was I doing then? That's what I'm going to duplicate in the Olympics.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I love it. We do have one more. How much time does the reinvention process take? And I chuckle. I think we all chuckle because Lyn always has a famous story that she has one client that did it in 6 months, which is mind-boggling. And for a lot of us, it can take years. Do you both have something to say about that?
Well, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So you get to decide. It's your project. But for me, I put the 5-year timeline on it. That was where I wanted to be. I won't be done in 5 years because my goal is to be a lifelong learner. So I will always be reinventing or revising or improving. But what do you have to say, Lyn?
Well, I feel like time, it's less important than putting a timeline on it and more important to remind yourself that you are doing it and you will continue until you find that place. We have those studies from the highest ranked POW in the Vietnamese War. I think he was a Navy admiral. And when he got out, they said, well, you must be an optimist. And he said, no, the optimist died. He said they would say, we'll be out by Christmas, and we weren't. We'll be out by Easter, and we weren't. And he said, then eventually they broke their own hearts. So in the reinvention process, 6 months is really quick because you want to look at all your options instead of shortchanging those. And sometimes you're going to find that you're going to be something you never thought you'd be. That takes time to discover what are all your possibilities. I think the best thing is to say, I'm going to find it. And when I find it, I'll know it and I'll be there. If you've already found it and you're in the reinvention process, then you can start putting dates of when you meet certain things. Like Hillari, you'll have goals that you put dates on. But assigning time to it can also break your heart in the process too. And so it takes what it takes, and it takes something from you, and you have to put that into it. But you can have joy, and you can earn, and you can be excited all the way through.
Yeah.
It should not be painful.
That's a great point. It is full of a lot of exciting pieces and parts and self-discovery and things you never thought you'd learn or be interested in. It is a joyful process. It can be trying at times and challenging, and it stretches us for sure, but the rewards are pretty magnificent.
Yeah.
And Lyn, I think it ties back to, I just want to point out, you did such a great talk on your Instagram the other day about this research coming out about how people, we're in this interesting time of transition when people don't stay in jobs for 20, 30 plus years any longer. A lot of people switch throughout their lives, and it's not only acceptable, it's reality. It's a great way to grow. And I think this goes hand in hand with that.
It does. Yeah. I expect you could have 12 different major roles, and you could stay with an employer for 4.1 years average. So
Incredible.
it's not a linear path. And for Hillari, she's never going to stop, and that's permissible. She's one of a handful who have decided that reinvention is a way of life and keep evolving versus finding that thing you're going to stick with for 10 years. Either way is fine. You just have to find your own pattern.
Yeah. It's got to be true to you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
What else do we want to cover today, Coach Hillari and Coach
Oh, I
Shannon?
think we've got, do we have some questions in the chat, or are those just posts?
think we have
Just
most
posts from Shannon's. Okay.
Yeah.
They're just posts from me.
Does anyone have any questions or any comments or experiences you'd like to share?
We can talk a minute about the transition model because you brought that up.
Yeah.
So we
think that'd be
follow,
helpful.
yeah, William Bridges' transition model. Shannon, if you want to put the link in the chat to our video on that. The transition model is basically, there's a beginning and a middle and an end to your reinvention. But what happens is the beginning is the ending of your past life. And then as you go through that, you hit the middle, which is called the neutral zone. And sometimes it's a zone of ambiguity, and it can be really uncomfortable because you feel untethered. You don't have the past to lean into because you know you've ended that or you are ending it. The future hasn't yet arrived. And so you don't know yet what you're doing. Every once in a while you catch a glimpse and you get excited, but you're in that neutral zone where you're untethered, and that's where we fill that in with experiments. And I think your point, Shannon Judge, was if you abort that middle section, the neutral zone, too early, and you choose something because you feel rushed and you don't recognize it as a bridge like Hillari has, or that way I'm going to earn a living while I'm reinventing, you actually think I've landed on it. Then what happens is you have to restart the whole process over. And so you go back and have to end. You know, maybe you did become a real estate agent and it didn't turn out.
Yeah.
And now you have to end that relationship and transition again. So what do you guys want to say about that?
That's exactly it. That Bridges said that every beginning starts with an ending. So if you do that, then you're back to square one.
Mm-hmm.
So as uncomfortable as the neutral zone might feel, it is really where most of your growth will happen and then allow you to move forward. And so sometimes you just have to marinate in it.
Or to use a Hillari word, you have to use your grit to get through.
That's it. That's it.
And that's, I think, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But the fact that, Bridges came to this in his own discovery of himself. It was through self-awareness that he came to this. So he's not just a scholar that studied. He's through personal experience that he chose to explore this about life's transitions.
Right.
So.
And I was just going to add that the beauty of bridge jobs, I think it allows us that experimentation place to I've done a lot of that myself before I came to coaching. I went down a lot of different paths with Lyn's guidance and coaching. And, I did a certain job. I signed up for a season, or I signed up for a year and went down different paths. I think a lot of people do that, and it allows you the space to check it out, try it on, see how it feels. And sometimes it's yep, I want to go further. And other times it's not a fit. And there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to consume years of your life.
No.
And I think part of that mindset comes from the conditioning. Somebody my age, where we were raised with this, you go to school, you get the degree, you get the job, this is what you do. And now, just like you talked about a minute ago, the average tenure at a position is 4.1 years. Did you say this? Just seeing that we have other things have changed. We have other possibilities. Part of that career reinvention process, when you're exploring your possible selves, is just to undo that conditioning of a fix. I need to fix this. That means a change or a transition is a fix. And you do have to remove that mindset, I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shannon and Hillari, if you guys will put your email addresses in, I want to invite anybody who has extra questions. Feel free to reach out directly to Hillari and Shannon if you have more questions about their presentation today, about their own reinvention journey. Like I said, we do this so much that I can't be the only coach here at SoulSalt anymore who does the reinvention track. And so Hillari and Shannon have prepared themselves and are very, very capable. And so if you'd like a free discovery session with one of them, just reach out through their email address, and they'll give you some time to talk and see what your needs are and wants are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us today. We feel passionate, as you might be able to tell, about your reinvention. And we also feel like we want to be guides and guardians of you and your process if you come into the SoulSalt family, because we know what it takes.
Yeah.
And we know that it can be frightening and exhilarating all at once. And just having a tiny bit of guidance. Nobody on this call needs help. You just need a little support to be able to stay out of the brain fog or the brain chaos that can happen, or the trepidation. So we really appreciate that you entrusted us with your time today. Make sure you follow SoulSalt Inc. on Instagram. That's where we're most active. Make sure if you want a discovery call, you reach out to Hillari or Shannon. Also, if you're interested in the book coming up, it'll come out early, the first of the year. Get on that list. Shannon's shown you how to do that. And you can also see, I think we have the video for the transition model. So a lot of things, and my TED Talk about head, heart, and gut wisdom. We got so many resources here for you that we don't want you to feel alone. Please welcome your friends to come next month as well. It's an open community where we just want to be of support. So thank you, everybody who joined in. Thank you, Shannon and Hillari, for your time and energy. Have a good rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.